So the snippet I just played is just a simple example of what we can do with the fingerstyle technique. So we could definitely start with something simple, for example, the Pima, thumb, index, middle, and ring. And then we can move on with something a little bit more rhythmic, such as the Travis-picking pattern. So there is a simple way to get started. You just need three things. Simple chords, so that we don't worry too much about left hand. In fact, I was playing the same chord shape. So it's basically the same chord shape played in 6 different positions. You also need limited strings. In fact, I was always plucking the same set of strings, the D, the G, the B, and the E string. And we also need diversified patterns so that we can keep it interesting and fun. Now I'm going to show you this system throughout 4 different categories, right? The Pima pattern with 3 and 6 notes, the Travis-picking, and the fingerstyle strum. Now before we get into it, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you like playing the guitar, as we post stuff on a weekly basis. And also, if you like this video, if you find this video helpful, click the like button, which is always good for the algorithm. Now before we get into the categories, let me show you the chords. We're gonna play the same chord shape, which is this one, fret number 2 on the D string and fret number 4 on the G string. We literally have just 2 fingers down, and then we have the B and the E string open. Now we're gonna call the positions based on the index finger position. So we're not going to call out the name of the chord. So we have the fret number 2, so the index finger on the fret number 2, fret number 4, fret number 6, which is a beautiful chord, fret number 7, fret number 9, and fret number 11. So the very first step, just familiarize yourself with the chords. Of course, as you will see throughout the video, we are going to change the order. So we can come up with beautiful sounding chord progressions using the same chord shape. Now let's talk about the category number 1, the Pima, which stands for thumb, index, middle, and ring. I've already made a video about this finger picking pattern, so check it out in the description down below. Now the Pima is really popular on the guitar because it allows you to play, a lot of different things. For example, the very first simple thing that you could do is to practice the Pima, which is the thumb, index, middle, and ring. It's a simple finger picking pattern that will develop all your fingers. Now the cool thing is that we can easily create variations, right? For example, we could do thumb, ring, middle, index. And of course, if we assign a finger to each string, so we have thumb, index on the 3rd, middle on the 2nd, and ring on the 1st, you can easily play the variation. In fact, now we're going to have thumb, ring, middle, and index on the D, E, B, and G string. Another variation, thumb, middle, index, ring. Let's change the chord progression. So we already have a few variations, a few exercises that you can practice. Now another thing could be the Pima, playing the chords simultaneously, playing the strings simultaneously. This is another common thing to do with the fingerstyle technique. And so we could play the chords like this. So I'm plucking the strings simultaneously, and of course we can make it more musical if we add a little bit of rhythm. And let's just change the chord progression again. That's pretty cool, right? Now, another awesome thing is the fact that we can break down this very simple pattern into a lot of different variations. For example, we could do thumb and then the 3 strings together. But we could also do thumb, index, and then middle and ring together. As you can see, we already created 2 more variations of the same finger picking pattern. So start with a simple one and then just come up with 2 or 3 variations. Now another pattern that I love is the alternate Pima, which means that we're going to alternate between 2 or more fingers. One pattern that I love is this one. So I'm basically alternating between thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, index, thumb, and ring. So it's a kind of a long pattern. We're playing 8 notes, but as you can see, it's lovely, it's rhythmic, and it's kind of a quite full pattern. I just really love it. Now the cool thing about this pattern, the alternate Pima, is again the fact that we can really break it down into small chunks. So you don't have to play 8 notes all the time. You could do 2 notes or 4 notes. For example, we could do thumb index only. Or we could do thumb index, thumb middle. As you can see, the variations are countless and they all work. They're all great because each single variation is going to develop a different aspect of your right hand technique. Now, next category is what I'll call triplets, which is basically pattern with 3 or 6 notes, right? And these are kind of quite interesting as I think they develop your ring finger quite a lot. So if you are looking into developing the ring finger, you can definitely practice the pattern with 6 notes. Now, let's talk about it. Now, the pattern with 3 notes is quite common in slow songs, like this one. So of course it's a pattern in 3, so the best way to count is this one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But of course we can change the set of strings. For example, we could have the thumb, middle, and ring. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And of course, any other possible variations. Thumb, ring, index. Now the pattern with 6 notes is also quite interesting. One of the most popular is the thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. It sounds like this. So we have thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. Now, one thing that I love about this pattern is the fact that it can really develop your ring finger. And if you think about it, we have 6 notes. We can break down these 6 notes into 2 groups of 3. And so with the pattern, with such a pattern, what happens is that you have the first note, which is going to be a little bit louder, then the second and the third, which we keep it a little quieter. Now, the note that we play with the ring finger is the first note of the second group, and so you want to make it a little louder. And then the middle and the index will be quiet again. So you want to try to play this pattern like this. Now, it's nice to put this emphasis on the ring finger, which is a finger that we don't really use that much when we do fingerstyle. So just come up with a nice progression and try to play this pattern like this. Category number 3 is the Travis-picking technique, which is really fun to play, but it can also be a little bit more challenging as it's kind of quite rhythmic. Now, the most important aspect of the Travis-picking technique is the fact that the thumb jumps on 2 strings. So we're going to have the thumb playing 2 strings like this. Example, I have the thumb playing on the D and the G string. Now I'm gonna break down the pattern. So we have thumb, and then we have the thumb on the G string again, and the middle finger on the E string. Then we have the thumb again on the D string, index on the B string, thumb again on the G, and middle finger on the E string. So if I do it slowly, and then you repeat the same thing twice. Now the last category is the fingerstyle strum, fingerpicking strum, I don't know how you want to call it, and it's basically strumming with the fingers. Now when we play with the fingerstyle technique, right, we don't hold the pick. And so if at some point we have to strum a few chords, we will strum with the fingers. And this is of course a technique that you can practice. Now, we don't want to end up just strumming like this, right? Instead, we want to kind of try to put the strum within a finger picking pattern. So one thing that I love could be, do the Pima, and then you strum a few chords. Now, one thing that you notice right away is the fact that I'm strumming with the index finger down or up, but I also use the thumb to kind of give it a little bit more rhythm. So, Pima, strum, strum, and then thumb, strum, thumb, strum, strum. Way, right, to add a little bit more rhythm to the chords, and we're still using the fingerstyle technique. Of course, there are a lot of different variations. I mean, the strum is just down and up, but there are a lot of different ways that we can implement the strum within a chord progression, but this is definitely a good starting point. So these are the 4 categories. As you can see, guys, the Pima is probably the most popular, is the one that we use as beginners, and then as we become better, we can try with the triplets, so pattern with 3 or 6, which are a little bit more challenging rhythmically as well. And then of course the Travis-picking is quite rhythmic, but it's really fun to play, but it's also a little bit challenging. So take it step by step, and then if you really want to add more rhythm and kind of a different color to the chord progression, you could strum with the fingerstyle strumming, fingerstyle strum, finger pick and strum with the finger kind of technique. Of course, guys, take it step by step. I'm gonna leave you to practice these finger picking patterns. Familiarize yourself with the chords, beautiful sounding chords, very simple, hopefully. And then, move on to the next thing when you feel ready. Enjoy this lesson. I'll see you soon.